Vance, this is Gerd. I'm very excited, and I got a couple of bottles from you. Thank you so much. It came here safely, and I put them actually in my wine cellar in a specific refrigerator for wine, and put them on the right temperature. And I'm very excited now, and want to see. Maybe you can explain to us what you sent to me, and then I really love to taste it together with you, and let's talk about it.
Well, thank you, Gerd, and I'm absolutely honored to do this, and want to thank Chris also for organizing and inviting us. What a delightful event! And I just finished a lot of surgery this week, and now I'm out in the Napa Valley, where we've been in the wine business for about 20 years, and it's maybe the scientists in us. I think a lot of people in ophthalmology and in medicine in general, are attracted to the science of fermentation and everything that goes along with the wine world. And it's interesting, Gerd, my best friend from medical school and I bought a little winery that was, kind of hurting. A little over 20 years ago, and we invited in some partners along the way as we grew, and we have a couple other people from actually the wine business, the ophthalmology business actually, that are involved with us. Jim Mazo, Eric Donenfeld, and Carrie Solomon are also involved in our wine business, and we have really focused on a direct-to-consumer experience in our little tasting room. And maybe as we taste the wines, we can talk about that a little bit more. But we're going to be tasting three of our wines. Our Sauvignon Blanc, made from our handwritten wines, called The Author. And we're also going to have our 2018 Merlot, that is from our Jessup Cellars, and our 2017 Jewel, which is a Merlot-based blend. I like to think of it like a Pomerol, and just kind of a nice little example of the wines that we have.
Great. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's interesting to know, because also I know some friends in Germany, a colleague from Karlsruhe who owns a winery. He inherited it, but still is also very active in that. So yeah, maybe we have some connections. Maybe that's because of being a scientist, being a doctor, or maybe being just somebody who just likes good things.
Yes.
So I think the Napa Valley is everybody knows is one of the most famous regions, especially in the US,
yes.
for wine. So can you tell us a little bit about what's so special about that? Why is the wine so good from there?
Well, for one, the location is very special. Being in California in the northern part, not too far from the Pacific Ocean, and also having the San Francisco and San Pablo Bay at its southern end, it has some very interesting weather characteristics. It's known for being a Mediterranean climate, which less than 2% of the Earth's surface is known for the cool nights and the warm days of a Mediterranean climate. And for the wine world, those warm days are so important, as you know, for developing the sugars that eventually get converted to alcohol. But also, what's so important to create balance in wine is the acidity. And so those cool nights, allowing those vines to rest and developing that acid that is so important to balance. Because if you're in a warm region of the world with warm nights, you can get your wine grapes to ripen, but you're not going to get the acidity. And then you're doing acid additions and you're starting to play with Mother Nature. And that's why these Mediterranean climates become so valuable. The real estate becomes very expensive, actually, because it's such a natural way to grow big, bold, balanced wines. And the Napa Valley is only a sixth of the size of Bordeaux. And so being a teeny region, it still has over half of the world's soils in it. So it makes for a very diverse climate. It also has various elevations, and you know how, drainage is so important to the wine world. And so hillside fruit can be very valuable, but there's also areas such as, the Rutherford Bench that isn't so much of an elevation, but just has the beautiful drainage of an elevation and some of the world's most expensive vineyard property. But what's also interesting about the Napa Valley is the southern part near the San Pablo Bay is the coolest part.
Mm-hmm.
And the northern part near Calistoga, because the Napa Valley goes from Napa, the town of Napa, to the northern part, Calistoga, is the warmest part. So it's kind of the opposite of what you would think. North warmest, south coolest.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the northern hemisphere, that's, unusual. And so the southern part of the Napa Valley actually grows some Burgundian varietals rather nicely, nice Chardonnay and Pinot. We've also experimented with some cool weather growing of Cabernet and Merlot there too, especially on some sun-facing vineyards that has made for some interesting Bordeaux varietals, but in general, a Burgundian type region in the southern part of the Napa Valley. And then as you go north, it's a Bordeaux growing region. The big five Bordeaux varietals just grow gloriously here, and it's just a wonderful wine growing region.
They say that the Merlot has very close ties to the Bordeaux in terms how it is. So it sounds like that it's also related to the specific region of the Napa Valley. If both grapes are really growing so nicely there.
Well, and we all pay homage to France, where a lot of the winemaking techniques and a lot of wine history comes from, and for sure the Merlot grape. I actually, Gerd, think of Merlot as what we age Cabernet to become. The tannins become, more longer and velvetier in an aged Cabernet, whereas Merlot has a tendency to get there more quickly, but also ages beautifully. But the softness of Merlot is something that I just love, and I consider it literally one of the world's most glorious varietals.
They say that the Merlot grape is a little bit different. It's a little bit bigger, has a kind of thinner skin than some of the others. So would you attribute especially the smoothness a little bit to that, let's say, anatomy of the grape?
Definitely. And I think it's also why it's a grape that is sensitive to the farming characteristics. And I think one of the things the Napa Valley tries to do is low yield, because grape wine, as our winemaker has taught me, is grown. And so if you go into a Merlot vineyard that is destined to create 12 to 15 tons of fruit per acre, will drop, 75% of that fruit. And so we're going for more like 2 to 4 tons per acre, so that all that great stuff from photosynthesis and everything that's happening in the vine is concentrated into less fruit. And I think that Merlot became so popular in the 70s and 80s that in the United States anyway, it was over-farmed, and it started to just not respect its characteristics, and it started to become maybe even a little less respected. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Sideways, but it was amazing to me, the power of a movie. The famous saying, which I can't say on here about what he said about Merlot, ended up being because it was his ex-wife's who had, divorced him. It was her favorite wine. So he had something very much against Merlot. And our Merlot sales with that movie went down. And it was amazing to me, the power of media. And you're, I remember in our tasting room, we just had this beautiful Merlot that was, low yield created, bold, beautiful flavors, and people wouldn't even want to try it. And then when we would talk them into try it, they're like, I love it. So we ended up making the blend that you're going to taste called Jewel, the Merlot-based blend. We thought, let's make a blend. And so people would say, when we'd ask if they want to try our Merlot, they'd say, oh, no, thank you. Well, would you like to try our blend, Jewel? Oh, sure. And they'd taste it and they loved it. But the point was that the movie had, and the over farming, I think, had kind of hurt Merlot, but farming principles matter so very much.
Do you think that because of the smoothness and the raw, it's kind of easy drinking wine in a way, Merlot, as you describe it now, is it more is it preferred also by women more, or is that not really right to say?
Yeah, I would,
because you said the wife was their favorite wine.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really an interesting thought. I do think Merlot has more feminine characteristics than Cabernet, but I think it's an amazingly food friendly wine that men enjoy also very much, and so I don't know if I would say I've seen that women enjoy Merlot more, but I would agree that it has softer characteristics.
So before we talk too much, I think we should go into action and try.
So should we try the white first?
We can start with the white.
It's whatever order you like.
Yeah, we start with white. I can show it here in the camera.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it is a very nice, almost handicraft. I think handwritten is written on it. It's a 2020. The author, that's what it calls. It looks really nice. I think we should give the people the opportunity, if they want to buy it or to access it, to give some information, maybe on the webpage or so, where you can get it. Let's try it. Yeah.
This handwritten wines, you know how precious a handwritten note is in this day and age. Well, our wines are all, using old world handmade techniques, and we thought there was just a lot of theming we could do with the name handwritten. And this wine is one of my favorite whites. And we have our own vineyard, but we also lease vineyards, and that's very common in the Napa Valley, especially as you grow. But this is an estate Sauvignon Blanc grown at our vineyard, and I would say that one of the things I love about it is its texture. Because you get the classic, tropical fruit aromas, that you get from, a nice Sauvignon Blanc. But you also get, not only besides the nice acidity, this creaminess. And it's because of the way it's fermented in a concrete egg. So we do some Sauvignon Blanc in stainless steel. We do some in oak.
Yeah.
And we actually do this in a concrete egg. And it's supposed to bring some, wonderful creaminess to a Sauv Blanc that actually starts to also, besides being something you would enjoy on the back porch on a summer day, that is very food friendly. And what do you think of this, Gerd?
Yeah, well, it looks very nice. And when I smell it, it really gives this feeling of tropical fruit. Yeah. I don't know, from pineapple through, it really has a more tropical touch for me compared to like the German white wines. Yeah, it's really
right.
Yeah.
Our winemaker, he's respects also the Sauvignon Blancs of the South Island of New Zealand, the North End. And he tries to emulate some of the Sauvignon Blancs of that region. And but this is a 100% Sauvignon Blanc. And, you know, we have experimented with blends of different vessels with the stainless steel oak and concrete egg. This one happens to be 100% fermented in a concrete egg.
Mm. When you have like oak, you can smell sometimes this. How does a concrete egg smell when you?
Well,
I don't know how I can describe that actually.
Yep. It wouldn't, you know, impart really any smell. It mainly is texture. And even with the oak, oftentimes what you'll smell has a little bit to do with the, you know, type of oak. Our winemaker calls oak his spice rack, you know, and, you know, we use mainly French, Hungarian, and American oak for different reasons. And so sometimes oak can be very neutral also, but it's just such a beautiful vessel to age and create wine in. But there's not really a smell that comes from this.
Yeah. For those who are not so familiar with wines, when we smell the wine, we have like 3 types of aromas. First, we usually smell the kind of fruity type of thing in a wine coming from the grape itself. The second aroma is more or less a little bit associated with the manufacturing process, more yield or something in it. And then the third aroma would be maybe coming from a specific oak, some nuts or even whatever kind of woody type of things you smell. So these are the 3 types of aroma you can smell when you look at a wine.
Yeah.
I think that's actually part of enjoying a wine to explore that even before you drink it.
Right.
It's an interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. So
that sensory analysis of looking at the wine and then smelling, because the olfactory sense is 70% of wine tasting.
Yeah.
And then tasting and enjoying not only some of the physical characteristics that are happening. So if we like to talk about the long finish and those types of things, but also the different flavors that you're tasting, and not to overthink it. I think wine is meant to be enjoyed. It's a wonderful catalyst to conversation. I consider it a great extension of food. Probably the majority of wine I have is with food.
So talking about that, what kind of food would be your favorite food with that, or what? Yeah, what would be the most frequent food where you would take this handwritten wine?
Yeah. So I think this is a beautiful wine with, you know, kind of whatever you're going to begin the evening with, you know, the wonderful prosciuttos and cheeses and fruits that maybe before you dive into your salad course. I think this would go right through the salad course just fine and into a nice fish or chicken. I don't necessarily have this with red meat, but I will say that it's personal preference. There's no hard and fast rule. That if you're someone who prefers white wine with meat, that's just fine. But for me, it's more the, you know, earlier part of the meal, but it can pair so nicely with a nice fish also.
And mostly like more Mediterranean type of starters, so to say. What would you say that? Yeah.
Right.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Vance. I think that was an exciting session we had, and great wine tasting. And I can assure you, I will not stop with it. Yeah, even when we finish the seminar, I will continue, and it's really worth it. And I'm really looking forward for the next time we meeting up. And I say cheers again I know it's difficult to. Yeah. Okay. Let's put it this way. And again, thank you very much for this.
Well, Gerd, it absolutely amazes me how Zoom can bring us together from two separate parts of the world, and just how your brilliant scientific mind that's helped us so much in ophthalmology, just the questions you asked about wine just shows me the depth of understanding you have in so many areas. And thank you so much, and cheers to you, my friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers.